I heard that since last time we had this phenomenal conversation, you've been having some spiritual attacks, which we both understand that it's not coincidence. Um, can you please give us some encouraging news of Jesus being victorious over all these spiritual forces of darkness?
You know, it's thanks for having me back. Week two. It was just funny. Like I got off the phone off our call last week. My wife, so I had my phone on silent. I had actually on airplane mode, and I open it, I turn it on, and she said, "Oh, I had to take our son to the emergency room." I'm like, "What? Holy cow!" So while we were talking, they're at my parents swimming, and apparently my son had a severe ear or something, screaming in pain, and he's a teenager, which is unusual for him to vocalize at all, let alone screaming in pain. And you know it. And it was the start of our vacation, and so there's all this fear. And then her email, her text to me when I turned my phone back on was, "Oh, I'll talk about spiritual warfare. We're headed to the emergency room." These things happen. He's okay. He can hear. An antibiotic took care of it. The pain went away almost immediately. This stuff happens, and I know of so there's a minister that I follow named Robbie Dawkins, and was actually visiting. He used to attend the church we used to attend, and our kids were in the same youth group, his son and my daughter. So I was actually met him, and anyway, but Robbie was ministering somewhere, I think in Europe, and all sorts of stuff was coming against them. People weren't getting healed, and he ministers in healing, and and he actually just texted his family back home here in the States. um, Hey, I could really use some help. Some minister, will you like intercede for me? And his kids, you know what they replied? We're heading to the emergency room to start healing people, and they did. They headed to the hospital and they started praying for people, and that assault in Europe stopped. Okay, like so I don't know. My opinion is, whenever you come against some stuff, go after it. Like lean into the gospel. And I had some other things this week, right? um, I'm not gonna like you got to lean into it, because if it's a little if it's warfare, and warfare is real and there's consequences sometimes and it's not pleasant. Jesus is victorious, and if he said go take that hill, take the hill. I mean, he said, I mean, to the audience, guys, when Moses came into the promised land, he sent 12 spies in, and like 10 of them came back and said there's giants in there, and like two of them are like let's go. They had to wait 40 years, and one of them, Caleb, he's like, what would he be? He'd be like 60 at this time, right? One of the spies. And he's like, that hill's mine. And Caleb's kids are like, Dad, like, dude, you're 60 and you're not 20 anymore when you take the giants. And Caleb's like, that's my inheritance. God gave it to me. It's mine. I'm taking it. Those giants have got to leave. And he took that hill. I think he took that hill. There's more to the story than that. I'm not gonna extemporate. Extemporate, is that a word? I'm not gonna just like go off on something I wasn't prepared for. But so you come against some warfare, go. Like I said last week, when I was ministering to someone a couple weeks ago, and she had all this stuff coming, and it was distracting her, I think, from her mission, from her calling. I'm going to clean up my stuff before I do the stuff. Clean up the stuff in my life. I'm going to get free from the demonic, and then I'll go ahead and do my calling. And I think God's like, you worry. Look, once you're saved, yeah, you might still be kind of a mess, but go.
Yeah, I forgot to mention earlier when you're talking about spiritual warfare and to take, the ground that God is sending you, and how if you're doing the Lord's work, you can expect spiritual attacks. I remember my buddy telling me, I I believe at least a couple of times, and I will. And this location is a notorious location in Chicago, which is well known. I will not mention the name of that location or the name of that place. I mean, the name of that place or the location, but it's a notorious place where they use women and see them as sexual objects. So whenever my buddy passes by that place, he's playing against God destroying that place and maybe building a church, on that location.
Mm-hmm.
And he tells me whenever he does it, he feels some spiritual attacks coming back, against him. So there is more to that. It's not a coincidence, and
Yeah.
he's not scared. He's not discouraged to give up or anything like that. But I'm just connecting with what you said like 5 minutes ago. There's a lot of stuff which we don't understand, and it's not a coincidence how the spiritual realm works. The same thing when we had our previous episode on last Sunday, and this suddenly happening to your son, or some other stories that you would tell me when we were offline. It's insane that all of these things would be just a coincidence after coincidence after coincidence, like all these accidents.
Yeah.
So thank God for protecting us and for giving us a sober mind so we can pray and be protected against these attacks.